Hi, my name's Derek, and in this Avoca video executive summary, we'll be looking at process automation, ways of achieving greater efficiency and effectiveness both inside and outside your organization. We'll start with a quick introduction and then show you what's possible when you use the technologies and experience of Adobe and Avoca to automate processes. Business processes are at the heart of every organization. They define how that organization does what it does, how applications for a license are processed, how credit card applications are processed, how complaints are handled, and even how internal requests such as applications for leave or capital expenditure are approved. In fact, Dr. William Edwards Deming, the father of total quality management, once said, "If you can't describe what you're doing as a process, then you don't know what you're doing." There are many formal definitions of what a business process is, but I like to think of it like this. A business process is a set of activities and decisions performed by an organization to deliver an outcome to the customer of the business process. Now, we've used a few words in there that probably need to be defined themselves. An activity is a step in the process where work is done, and it can be performed by a person or a system. For example, an activity might be to add information to a request, assess a claim, approve or reject an application. It is important to understand what inputs are required to flow into each activity to ensure it can be performed effectively, and what outputs flow out of an activity, as those outputs become the next activity's inputs, and if they aren't complete, the next activity cannot be performed effectively and rework may be required. A decision is a step in the process where a business rule is evaluated and the process takes one of two or more paths. For example, if a mortgage request is over $500,000, it may require a senior loan officer to review it. If an application for a driver's license has come from an individual over the age of 50, that might trigger a requirement for an eyesight test, and so on. The outcome could be an approved mortgage, a driving license, or a rejected expense claim. But the critical components of the outcome are that firstly, the decision is correct based on the information provided, and secondly, that the outcome is delivered to the customer in a timely fashion. The customer of a business process is the person or organization awaiting the outcome. That could be a customer in the traditional sense, such as the applicant for a mortgage wishing to purchase a home, or it could be an employee submitting an expense claim or a supplier submitting an invoice for payment. So once you understand what a business process is, and you can define your own specific business processes, what next? Well, when considering business processes, every organization should strive to achieve two things: effective and efficient business processes. Effective means your business process is delivering the outcome the customer of that process expects. That doesn't mean they always get the answer they'd like. Claims don't always get approved, but the process should deliver an approved or rejected outcome. Efficient means your business process minimizes the time and cost required to be effective. If your focus is only on efficiency, chances are you're very good at delivering products or service that nobody wants. If your focus is on being effective, chances are you're delivering great products or services that customers can't afford or that customers aren't willing to wait for. So you need to combine effective and efficient when delivering business processes. So in looking at ways to improve existing business processes to ensure they are both effective and efficient, let's have a look at one of the most common areas of failure for organizational processes, the area of handoffs. Organizations are typically structured into departments or business units. For example, the administration area, call center, claims department, and each of these departments is typically structured with its own responsibilities, accountabilities, and budgets. But when a customer interacts with an organization, they drive a tunnel straight through these departments. If a delay occurs in the claims area, the customer doesn't feel the organization performed admirably, with the exception of claims. They see the entire organization as having failed. And it is typically in the areas where the business process hands off from one department to another that the majority of issues occur. A common practice in business process analysis is to turn the organization on its side. convert the org chart into a swim lane diagram with the lanes in the swimming pool representing areas of the organization involved in the business process, including the all-important customer for that business process. And when drawing the business process, activities and decisions are allocated to swim lanes to denote who is responsible for that task or decision. Every time the process flow crosses a swim lane, we have a handoff and a potential problem. Where many workflow automation systems fail is when the business process crosses the boundary between the organization and the customer. Traditionally, paper has been the lowest common denominator for interactions between organizations and individuals outside the organization. Requests are made on paper forms, additional information is requested in letters, communications are sent by post. But organizations that leverage Adobe Lifecycle to streamline business processes get to take advantage of the technology already installed on the customer's PC, namely the free Adobe Flash Player, free Adobe Reader, and web browser, as well as email and SMS communication technologies. Using the graphical Adobe Lifecycle Workbench, a process designer can lay out the activities and decisions of the business process on the workflow diagram. But in this case, each activity or decision is a human or system step. It's not just a picture on a workflow diagram. The step is performed by the Adobe Lifecycle Process Management System. Also, without writing any code, the process designer can specify for a task when reminders are to be sent, what happens if escalation is required, as well as deadlines and other properties for the task. So processes can be streamlined but still kept human-centric with automation where appropriate. Let's take a look at what a business process streamlined with Adobe Lifecycle can look like. In this example, as an employee of GovAssist, I'm logging in as a caseworker. Once I've logged into my workspace, I can see that I have 23 items in my to-do list. From this dashboard, I can also start a new process myself, such as a leave request, or track any tasks that I've been involved with previously, all without having to revert back to any paper transactions. Let's click on our to-do list and work through these 23 items. The items in my to-do list could have been submitted from the website, through the call center, or even as paper transactions that have been digitized and added to my to-do list. The information presented to me on each of these icons for the task is configurable and can be extremely useful. So if I have an urgent inquiry about a specific individual's request, say Laura King, I can quickly see from these icons that Laura's request is here and it's sitting in my inbox. There are more powerful search tools also that I can leverage to get more detailed information or perform searches across a larger group of tasks. But let's start with the first request in the queue for John Jacobs. When I select John's task, I'm presented with a summary view of the task, what it relates to, when it was created, last updated, and so on. We can also click on the form to see the details of what was submitted. I can see that the request that's been submitted through to me is a PDF, but it's an interactive PDF document, one that could have been completed online through an environment such as Form Center. Let's assume that I've done my work associated with this task and want to digitally sign the form and submit it to the next step in the workflow process. We scroll to the bottom of the form and I simply click on the digital signature field. I'm presented with my digital signature and I can click sign. The digital signature is immediately applied to the document. This sample signature doesn't require any authentication, but in a real-world environment, there would typically be a password associated with applying the digital signature to the document. Before we submit this task to the next stage in the workflow, I'd like to add a note for the next person. So I'll click on the task details, select to add a new note. It's a note, enter some text, and click OK. And I can see that my note has now been added to this task, and this will continue to move with the transaction as it progresses through the workflow. I'll return to the form, hit complete, and I can now see that my task list has been reduced to 22. and I can move on to the next request from Tony Corbis. Continuing with the theme of process automation and paperless, let's see what's happened now that Roy Woodard from GovAssist has approved the John Jacobs request. John receives an email, which is a well-formatted message, which contains 2 attachments. We have a set of tips for success in an interview, which we can click on, and see that we have a PDF document. The other document is a set of recommended jobs. When I open the recommended jobs file, I find that it's been password protected, as it contains some sensitive information. Upon entering my user ID and password, which is authenticated back to a central server and not stored in the document itself, I'm granted access to the contents of the file. The contents of the recommended jobs document is a PDF letter, copy of my benefits application, which has been digitally signed, and a list of recommended jobs. As you can see, the paperless process automation not only delivers value inside the organization by automating the routing of requests such as forms and allowing for electronic processing of tasks, but also extends value outside the organization by automating and securing communications with customers. This combination of technology and people can deliver powerfully effective and efficient business processes.